Ciao, Bellas. In the past week, I've been seeing an interesting conversation come up around the terms divine masculine and divine feminine. And then since I've been seeing a few little bits of core media that I follow, the name one being, I guess the one, I've been aware of it, I guess, in a broader term of things for as new age ideology and creators and everything have been kind of popping up. And everyone's kind of been more accepting of, astrology and divination and herbology and spirituality and esoteric knowledge and that kind of stuff. As everyone's kind of been more accepting of that, everyone's going to be having their own unique and individual takes on it, and totally get it. And also, I just want to put a disclaimer in the sense that I think my tone throughout this video might fluctuate between condescending Virgo and know-it-all Leo a little bit. And if any of that ever peeks through, just please know that at my base root, I know that I'm not the be-all end-all of all of this shit, but I just have opinions. I have opinions and thoughts. And sometimes my delivery of those opinions and thoughts can sound very this is the way, when that's not how I intend it. I'm definitely sharing these thoughts and opinions as this is my way. This is the way that I see things, this is the way that I experience things, and that is as far as it needs to go. So, just want to say that. Anyway, divine masculinity and divine femininity. The more in the past week that I've kind of just, it's as I said, it's been kind of floating around ever since everything's been more accepted in society. And then in the past week, there's just been some concentrated examples of people, I guess, either demonstrating or communicating their idea of what divine femininity and divine masculinity is and how that manifests for them in their life. And I can't help but see it as fundamentally flawed. And I don't know, it for so many reasons. And I think it's Anna Psychology, if I remember, I'll link her channel, but I don't know, she's an amazing resource, and her video was really, really informative, because I guess she touches on a bunch of different aspects of it, in the sense that I guess people hearing this term could innately assume a more gendered view of it, in the sense of divine masculinity or divine femininity, where in my head the terms, I'm gonna go into that later, divine femininity and divine masculinity as gender portrayals, I guess, and what it would mean to be in to be a divine feminine or divine masculine, or what are the qualities of a divine feminine or divine masculine, and everything like that, and how that's shown in culture and how that's perceived. And then she goes into the idea that I guess, or that she was more producing in her head oh, these are archetypes. And I was yeah, it's a good way to look at it. And she's going into folklore and goddesses and gods. And I think that's a really good way to frame it, in the sense, because it kind of sits in my head, which is what they're archetypes, yes, but also I guess the problem that I'm having and the problem that I'm seeing is that people are taking something that is, what the name suggests, divine, not human, not of this realm, not of this world. It's not really supposed to be able to be materialized into any kind of human being. It's not a human thing. The word suggests divine. And I guess also the next thing that doesn't really compute in my, the thing that I guess I don't really, in my understanding, in my interpretation of divine masculine, divine feminine energy, the other thing that I've seen other people put towards it that I don't necessarily understand is the whole gendered thing. Because, and I guess I also in saying that, I just want to remind people of that whole prompt of just, this is my head and my own context. And I guess I understand femininity and masculinity and those words have like a female and male trait to them. But when I say feminine and masculine, even though there's only a couple letters difference, in my head it's just not gendered. And I understand how confusing that could be to hear, but for some reason in my head that exists, because I think we've been here talk about the fact that gender it's not a polarity, it's a scale. And I'm someone that believes in that. Like I'm someone that's like, that's valid. And that's how I understand gender as a social construct to manifest within a human being, playing that out in their life. But I guess if I'm talking about like qualities in like a quantifiable sense, feminine and masculine, they're qualities, not gender. Like those words represent qualities in my head, not gender, as in like it does become a polarity in a sense. And I guess in my brain, it's like the world, I have a very logical brain. I'm like, in the way that I understand the universe and the way that I understand the world, there are things that are qualifiable and there are things that are quantifiable. And I think the things that are more quantifiable rather, are more objective rather, and the things that are qualifiable are more objective and subjective. The things that are more quantifiable are objective, and the things that are more qualifiable are subjective. Does that make sense? In the sense that like, yeah, I think that's how I have to say that. Because if I had to put that in terms of like viewing the whole gender perspective of these terms, like femininity and masculinity can't really be quantified in my head, but people are trying to do that. I don't know. There's like, I guess that I'm getting confused in trying to like I'm getting confused in trying to explain myself, and I'm not actually just talking about what I want to talk about, because I'm getting very scared that this is a very touchy subject and I could inadvertently be because I don't know, because I'm speaking from a place of, I guess, like gray area and understanding. If I don't know what I'm saying, I could be unintentionally hurting someone if they hear this. And that's like, yeah, not within my intention. And I understand that it's me kind of like skirting the lines of like having an understanding in my head and hearing other people say things, and then people being like, that belief is harmful, and then that belief is tied to these words of like divine feminine, divine masculine. But I'm like, I hear that and I see that and I see evidence of these things, and I'm like, well, I don't believe that. And like the way that person's talking about divine feminine and divine masculine energy is not how I view it, and that's not what's in me. But that's the thing that people are saying are harmful, so I'm confused. Do you know what I mean? And I guess it's the whole thing of like, yeah, like I guess people view it in the lens of whatever they want to view it. And I think the archetypal lens is a very like, it's a very, I guess, objective way to view it, which I think is how these terms should be viewed, as like objective like values. Because like I said before, like the word divine masculine, divine feminine, it is not something that should ever be inherently humanly occupied. Do you know what I mean? Like as the word suggests, like it's never going to be anything that a person can be. You as a human being are never going to be divinely feminine or divinely masculine. And I think when you get into more like spiritual nuanced elements of it, I believe personally that like to be wholly and completely only one thing, that goes against my core understanding of, and like I guess the core compass of the world, which is balance. And like the belief that for one thing to exist, there is its implied opposite, and to appreciate or understand the value of one, you need the other. And just that a lot of the things in the world just operate within an understanding at like optimal functioning. The world operates when it's balanced and everything is great and is beautiful in harmony and in balance. And so for anything, any entity, any one being, thing, source, whatever it is, to be this all-in-one encompassing thing of just one element, I look at that and I go, that's imbalanced. And so if you're talking about like a concept of divine femininity, in like for me, when I hear that, I go, oh yes, and it is accompanied by a divine masculine, because they are two parts of a whole. They are not two separate things that any one person should be striving towards one thing. They are two parts of a whole. And so for anyone to, I guess, idealize or put forth this like picture of like an achievable state that is a divine feminine or a divine masculine, I'm kind of, I take issue with that. I take issue with that because that is an innately unachievable, you're never going to reach it, babes. You're never going to be it. And if you do, you're going to be a pretty imbalanced person, because you're someone who's just completely in your feminine. Where's your boundaries, babes? How are you going to get anything done? How are you going to stand up for yourself? How are you going to speak for yourself? How do you operate? Where's your routine? Where is your structure? Where is your anything? Because the whole idea of a divine feminine, to be able, like the whole idea, and I guess this is just, I'm talking from this divine feminine thing because I think a lot of women, people who identify as women, there can be this huge pedestal that femininity is put onto when you take these terms and you bring them into this gendered ideal that like a human could be like divinely feminine. People put it on this massive pedestal of that like that is like this like role that somebody has to play. And if you encompass all of these traits and if you show all these characteristics, then you are therefore more feminine. And I think we've been here known, like I'm not speaking to a bunch of idiots, that like, I feel like there's a vast majority of people that have an understanding that there is no one thing of femininity, which is also why I would point to the fact that like, I don't know, if I want to go into like astrology, you have 4 elements, right? And you have, let's say you have fire, earth, water, air. And those are elements, yes, there's 2 that are inherently feminine, like yin yang, feminine, masculine. But you get women that are born in masculine signs. You get Venus placements that are in masculine energies. And so there are masculine expressions of femininity. And so that's when people start talking about like, when people start wanting to like get into all of these things of like, what is a divine feminine, like what is a feminine energy and what is a feminine portrayal? And like, when people want to make it about all these like very pure feminine, like divine feminine traits of that, like maybe more earth or maybe more water, it's when people who have like more fire or air expressions of femininity start to feel outcasted and like not as valid, which is completely just not fucking true. And so it just gets so fucking like twisted when people want to make this like purity complex around these words, where it's like, I don't know. I think it's something that's really harmful. And I think that like understanding the idea and the concept of a divine feminine as like an aspect of like, in my head, it roams as this thing of like, again, 2 parts of a whole. It is one part of a whole, one part of a split whole, and I believe that within that whole, it's everybody has both within them, and they need to be balanced for you to be a functioning human being, because the role of the feminine is the area of like the underworld. It's Persephone, it's the chaos, it is raw emotion, it's intuition, it is everything that you can't see, it is everything that you aren't able to perceive, because the land of the perceived is the masculine. Masculine is everything seen dealt with, handled, boundaries. It is everything that you can be tangible. It's everything tangible and material in the world. And it's like, when I hear the words masculine and feminine, like what do you mean like masculinity is tangible then? I don't know, it just doesn't cross over in my mind when people view them as a gendered thing and only as a gendered thing, and then criticize them on that behalf, because I'm like, I think that's a fucked up way to view them. But I want to still be able to use the words feminine and masculine, because I don't think the way that I view them is inherently harmful, because I, again, believe you need to have both of them within you. You need to be able to have both of them within you to be able to function as a human being, whether you're a guy, whether you're a girl, whether you are on, whether as a gender identity, you are somewhere in the middle, somewhere, whatever spectrum you have, in terms of the two parts that I believe reside within you. It has nothing to do with gender, but how you operate in the world. And if you have a wounded masculine and you're a dude, or if you're a dude, if you're a girl, if you're anywhere in between, he's, theys, she's, them's, theirs, anyone. If you have a wounded masculine, you're gonna have fucked up issues with boundaries, and you're gonna have issues with aggression. If you have issues with your feminine, you're going to be a fucking doormat, and you're not going to be able to recognize your emotions. And it's like, these are quality things. These are things about an essence of being a functional psyche that doesn't matter what gender you are. If you have issues with these parts of you, it's an issue, it's an imbalance, and it's a problem, and it needs to be addressed, And the whole this whole pedestal of being divinely feminine. Fuck off. Fuck off about it. Because what's divine if you don't have anything? What is divine about having all this inside, your feminine energy? It does fucking nothing if you have no boundaries around yourself to be able to use that feminine energy. It's the reason feminine needs masculine, is because feminine, yes, it's everything internal and it's everything inside, and you can you can understand the strength in passivity, and you can understand the strength in silence, and you can see the benefit of listening to your body and your emotions, and you can hold yourself as a sovereign human being, and you can be in touch with your feminine side, or whatever the fuck any of that means to somebody else. But what good does that do you if you can't protect that, and if you can't cultivate that actively, if you can't put that into the world as something that is empowered and seen? If you're not able to make your feminine seen, which, that's why you need a masculine, to be able to let yourself be seen and have a structure in the world, and have a standing, and have a voice, and have fucking impact on anything. That is masculinity. Masculinity is power, but it's not power in terms of overthrowing everything. It is the power of impact, and it is the power to be real in not a real as in everything that's not masculine is not real. Real, I mean, as in present in reality. It is not something to be overlooked, and it is not something to be I don't know, there's also the whole thing of I feel people, when they're talking about a powerful feminine, or the divine feminine, when they start talking about divine feminine, they start listing divine masculine attributes. And I'm well, I feel you're just being a little bit, I feel people are getting that shit confused, and people there's also this whole thing about toxic masculinity, and I'm I see a lot of people, if they have this unbalanced understanding of what it is of masculine and feminine traits, and not in a gendered way, people start claiming everything good as a feminine trait, and then everything shit as masculine. And so when people start talking about manipulation, and they start talking about toxic masculinity and manipulation, nah, dude, that's a feminine trait. That is an imbalanced feminine, that's an imbalanced feminine trait to be. And I don't mean female. I do not mean female. I do not mean woman. I mean feminine. Emotional manipulation is toxic feminine. It is not toxic masculine. It is a wounded, toxic feminine. And so I see so many people on social media who I feel don't have a foundational understanding of what these terms, at least to me, mean. So I see people talking about these things, and they don't make sense. They just don't make sense. They don't make sense at all. And so they're talking about these things, and I'm you're just kind of hating you're just trying to claim everything. And I understand that it's like a bit of to empower like feminine energy because it has been disempowered for hundreds and hundreds of years. And I understand that argument. Hi, I'm a fucking girl, like I'm a woman. I've lived in a, like I've seen it, I felt it, I know what it is to be disempowered and oppressed because of your gender and because of your sex and because of whatever the fucking other words you want to call it. But like, I feel like in that kind of like imbalance of it, people are just trying to empower themselves by claiming all these good traits and talking about how divinely feminine they are. But it's like, I feel like you're creating more of an imbalanced divide because of your own ego and your own woundings than you're just tossing aside, and you're not actually looking at all of these valuable things within the masculine energy that the feminine energy innately needs to be able to function properly. And it drives me fucking mad. Like, it drives me fucking insane because it's like, how are you gonna say you're in your feminine when you're like doing all these masculine things and then like be bitter about something not turning out right for you, and then getting petty and shitty and actually like displaying traits of a very imbalanced like feminine side of you that like you actually seem like you're screaming that you need nurture and solitude, and like you're screaming that you need softness because you're in your excitation and you're in a state of assertion, but claiming that that's your, I don't know. It just confuses the living shit out of me. And I feel like when it is really confusing, I understand how people are finding these terms very harmful, especially with this whole pedestaled idea of shit, and especially when people want to be like aligning all of these things into this like, this is good and this is bad. And this is the thing, it's like neither one, like that's the other thing, it's like neither one is better than the other. Like, again, balance. You can't have one without the other. One cannot be more powerful and the other just be existing in an equilibrium. No, if one is more powerful, the other is disempowered. And that power is not power. It is imbalance, and it is toxicity. It is toxicity whether it is more or less. That is when shit becomes bad. Whether you are more or less than the equilibrium, balance, that is a state of harmony. If you are anything other on the other side, that is when toxicity starts to manifest, and that is when you start having problems. And again, I understand that I'm speaking very like, I know that right now I sound like I think I know everything, but it is because in my brain, this is how it makes sense to me. And I'm seeing things that don't correlate to my understanding of these terms. And for me, when I live my life and I am like seeing everything from my perspective, I don't view these things as inherently harmful. And maybe that is because I am like a cis white female. Like maybe that is because I haven't actually encountered any problems. Maybe that is like just a lack of my own experience, and I'm willing to accept that and I'm willing to understand that. But I can't accept the incongruency of people like having these false claims and trying to like promote the idea that it is inherently healthy to sit in either one of these solely conceptually by themselves. It infuriates me, and it makes my heart hurt for like anybody that has these like sees these people talking about what it is to be divinely feminine and like have these ideals pushed onto you, because I've been there. Like, because I'm a masculine rising, I for so long questioned if I was ever feminine presenting enough, if I was ever attractive enough. And it's like I feel so passionately about this because like I understand what it is to be hurt by these kinds of standards, that when you try to make them human, when you try to make them apply to something that is like as a human being innately flawed and innately always going to be a work in progress, and you're always going to be something that is growing and changing and shifting, and you are going to be out of balance. You aren't always going to be in a perfect balanced masculine to feminine state. You are going to have traits that are going to be flowing in and out, and you're going to have those shifts and changes in life, and you are never going to be in complete harmony, and that is okay. And you shouldn't be trying to seek solace in just putting all of your eggs in one of those baskets, no matter what it is. Like, it is just something that I see and have felt the harm myself, and something that I just see is continually like promoted by people that I understand are trying to send like a great beautiful message of empowerment, but they're just wrong. They're just wrong, and they're spreading misinformation that, if into the wrong hands, like, could really harm somebody's personal ideals, and like could really harm somebody's sense of self. And like, I don't know, like, it is a very fine line to just put such a halo effect around specific qualities that you want to manifest into a human being in order for them to be this thing that will get them to feel good within themselves and feel aligned with themselves, and then to like put this like negative shit, or just to not even voice it, I guess. Because I guess I'm so happy, in the same time I'm happy that people are talking about like empowerment of like more femininity. Like I'm happy that people are seeing strength and vulnerability and validity and softness, but like not at the expense of a disregard of assertion and power, like, and pure power, not oppressive power. That's another term that I think is power in its balanced state is power. It is impact. And like, I feel like that is a word, just like the word masculine has been tainted and has been devalued, and people aren't able to see it for what its merit and worth and necessity is, in terms of, if you want to start talking about these things, if you want to start talking about these qualities, you need to view them with balance. You need to view them in like a tempered way. Like, you need to be able to see the value in all of them, not just the pedestal of one. And it's sending me fucking crazy. It's sending me fucking insane, dude. It's sending me fucking insane, brother. Ooh. It's making me go mad. It's making me go mad. Mad. And there's so many little offshoots of topics and conversations that I could have off this one rant and ramble. And like, I feel like there are so many things that I haven't said properly, but I don't care at the end of the day, because again, I'm speaking from my own experience, I'm speaking from my own thing. I'm just rambling because this makes me passionate, and I'm confused. I'm confused, and I'm worried, and I'm stressed, and I'm like, every time I have my own bubble of my life, and I'm like, my life's blah doo doo dee 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 doo ba 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 boo dee ba bo, and I'm great. I see something outside of my bubble talking about something that is in my bubble, but then they're talking about it in a way that it's like fucked. And I'm like, wait a minute, if you're talking about it like that, that must mean my bubble's fucked. And I take a minute to like reflect, and I'm like, but the way that I think it's not like that. It's not that thing is. But then that thing is being spread to like hundreds of thousands of people, and it's like, but then I'm also like, you know what, maybe Annabelle, maybe it's just completely without your control. You just need to like let it go. Maybe you just need to fucking let it go. And like, understand that you don't know everything. And like, I could be fucking wrong. I could be so fucking wrong. And that releases a little bit of like this feeling of responsibility off my shoulders, because I could be completely fucking wrong, and I could just be spinning out for no good fucking reason. And also, I can just come back to the fact that I don't believe the way that I know within me, the way that these qualities and these terms exist within myself is not in an exclusionary or toxic way. I believe that my understanding of these things are what I think are very valuable tools for me. And that I think these tools, if understood in the way that I understand them, and the way that I know a lot of my friends and a lot of the people, I know that other people, I don't think that I'm the only person that thinks like this, babes. No. I am not predisposed to that kind of God complex of thought. No, I try not to be, because it makes me feel really alone. And why would you want to feel alone? I know that other people view it like me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know that this is a way of perceiving it. And I'm just like, when it's perceived this way, I view it as a very good thing. like a very helpful tool. It doesn't have to be good. I try not to label things as good as bad. And I feel like I might have done that in this video, but I don't know. It doesn't have to be a good thing. It doesn't have to be good or bad, but I do believe it is a very practical tool. If somebody else's mind is as inclined as mine is to view the world and have the kinds of structures in place to be able to interpret the world around them the way that I do, and the way that a lot of other people do, by like utility and like making things fit. Because I don't know, within my head, these things can exist, and so can like spectrums. Like that's why it like makes a lot of sense for me to be like, the world is things that are quantifiable and like objective, and qualifiable and subjective. Like there's all these different things, and like I don't know. Like the terms masculine and feminine can exist, and you can also be a genderqueer person, and those two things do not upset the logic in my brain. They just don't. They're like, yeah, that makes sense. And I'm not getting, like, this is not me getting angry at any kind of queer community. That's not me. Like, it's me just getting angry at, like, I guess the people that phrase the terms masculine and feminine in a way that does hurt the queer community. Because I'm like, you don't have to view it that way. And those terms don't actually have to be harmful, because they're not inherently in the way that I view them. And it makes me upset that, like, I guess the tools that I use to view the world could oppress somebody. And I'm like, but they're not, but then again, that's me talking as someone that doesn't have the experience. Like, I don't have the experience of being oppressed by those words. Actually, that's what I mean by then. Like, when they're just done shittily on social media, you can get these ill ideas of like femininity and masculinity in your head when they are put to these things of gender, which I don't believe they inherently should be, because they're not a gender thing. Anyway, I'm going fucking insane. As you can see, I don't believe the terms masculine and feminine should be gendered. I understand portrays of femininity and masculinity, and that femininity has been attributed as a very womanly trait, and masculinity has been attributed to a very manly trait. I understand the correlation, but I don't feel like you should keep those words in those boxes, because I think that's harmful. And I think there are better ways to understand those terms that have a lot more utility than just putting people in a gendered box where they don't belong, because gender is not a box. I'm getting angry, and I think it's disturbing my bunny. I'm infuriated. Am I gonna post this? Yes, because I feel like I just need to fucking say it, and I feel like if I don't say it, I'm gonna go insane. I feel like I'm gonna go insane if I don't just even at the risk of me having said something out of like out of chaos, if I worded something wrong and like whatever, I don't know, I don't care at this point. I don't think I care. I think I just need to get it out and just I just don't understand. I don't understand. I just don't like pedestals. I like harmony. I like balance. And I don't like it when things get polarizing, and when people put things on pedestals, and when people can't just like sit in gray and acknowledge the holistic benefit of everything, as opposed to like one thing being the best. Do you know what I mean? And I do understand, but it creates a little bug in my head that goes, no. Anyway, I don't even know if I'm making any sense, and I've now been talking for like more than 30 minutes, so I'm gonna stop it. I'm gonna stop this here. I might rewatch it. It's like half an hour of me watching myself, and I don't think I'd be fucked about that, but whatever. Hi to my 5 subscribers. Hope you like what you signed up for. Because wow.